Toastmaster Newton. Toastmaster Newton. Okay, the agenda, the link to the agenda is in the chat. Anyone can click it and get the agenda from there. So online link. Yeah, President Brian?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to go with who's here. Brian, I called Desmond. He said he was logging in and not seeing him. Can't reach Colleen. And there was supposed to be somebody doing an ed feature, but I'm not seeing her. Just message Shanari asking him to put her in, but not seeing her.
I will try and reach her.
Okay, thank you, Essie.
Okay.
We know about Kendrick possibly not making it. Desmond's supposed to be the timer. But yeah, we might have to just start with who we have. Time is of the essence. Newton, I assume that Newton got in touch with Karen.
No. I still don't have the information.
Newton, what speech are you doing? What project are you doing? Mr. Pommels, Newton Pommels, what presentation are you doing? Newton, what presentation are you doing?
Newton, you hearing us?
Yes, sir.
Okay. They're asking which presentation you're doing.
Yeah, I was calling that. I was saying it in the meeting. What presentation are you doing?
I'm actually doing leadership development level 2, mentoring, project 3. About the fact that when I, to give an example of when I was a protege or something to that effect.
All right, can you please email that to myself? I forward it to Karen. Project details.
He doesn't have to
I'm
email
sure
it.
if I can
Jeffrey,
find
he
somebody to
doesn't
help me
need
sort
to
it out.
email it. I just needed to know the project.
Give me a few minutes. Yeah. Yeah, man, it's supposed to be on the thing.
Okay. Sir Brian, ready when you are. Say Desmond, there's a timer. And I don't say, I might ask you to act as an account programmarian until Colleen comes in.
Ask who?
The account programmarian until Colleen comes, if she comes. I'm not seeing her.
You're asking me to do it?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so Sergeant at Arms?
Could the agenda?
Toastmaster Newton? I don't think so. Toastmaster Newton, are you hearing us? Let me see if I can start out Toastmaster Newton before it's time.
Link to the agenda is placed in the chat again. You should be able to don't click it and done.
I'm wondering what is happening. I'm not hearing you guys, and I don't know why.
You know.
I don't know
So
why
okay. Hello.
this is happening.
So we can hear him, but he can't hear us.
All right. I think I found the problem.
Can you hear us now?
Yes, man.
All right, good stuff.
So we're ready to begin. So, Sergeant at Arms, please go ahead.
Pleasant afternoon to evening to everyone. It is our final meeting for the Communicators of Hope Toastmasters Club with the theme, the final countdown. It is my privilege to introduce our president of our club. He is no other than Toastmaster Brian Stevenson, who is also the HOD for my department, someone who I've worked over the years with, and I have found him to be a very helpful person. So it's with pleasure that I now introduce our president, Toastmaster Brian Stevens.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Newton. And I would like to welcome everyone to this, our final meeting for the 2019-2020 Toastmasters year. It's a pleasure having everyone on board. I now call this meeting of the Communicators of Hope Toastmasters Club to order. Before we go any further, I would like to read the Toastmasters promise that is on your agenda. Please feel free to read along with me or recite with me with your mics closed. As a member of Toastmasters International and my club, I promise to attend club meetings regularly, to prepare all of my projects to the best of my ability, basing them on the Toastmasters education program, to prepare for and fulfill meeting assignments, to provide fellow members with helpful, constructive evaluations, to help the club maintain the positive, friendly environment necessary for all members to learn and grow, to serve my club as an officer when called upon to do so, to treat my fellow club members and our guests with respect and courtesy, to bring guests to club meetings so they can see the benefits Toastmaster membership offers, to adhere to the guidelines and rules for all Toastmasters education and recognition programs, to act within Toastmasters' core values of integrity, respect, service, and excellence during the conduct of all Toastmasters activities. Again, welcome to everyone, especially to our visiting friends. I see several persons who love the Communicators of Hope and who always are with us and assist us, encourage us as we strive to grow as a club. I want to make special mention of those who are visiting otherwise. I see Kenisha is with us, and we thank her for being here. We're looking forward to a great meeting. It's the final countdown. It's the end of the year. Everybody is excited, and there is, even in the short space of time that is left, there is still much to be accomplished. We will proceed under the guidance of our Toastmaster of the Day, who also performs the General Evaluator role. He is our resident Distinguished Toastmaster and has served as our Vice President Education for this past Toastmaster year. Please welcome Distinguished Toastmaster Jeffrey.
Thank you, Toastmaster Brian. Just give me a quick second here. It is indeed the final countdown. We came so far, worked so hard, and we have one more day in this Toastmasters journey for 2019, 2019. For 2020, 2029, for 2019, 2020. That was the introduction to the famous song, The Final Countdown, by the group Europe. And Toastmasters and friends, what a journey it has been. I have served as a VP Education for Communicators of Hope for this year, and it's been a wild, interesting, and productive ride. I worked with a wonderful team, an excellent president, the Toastmaster Brian Stevenson. We made the push, and we are here to celebrate and give the last chance or last time for this Toastmasters year to do our presentations. Welcome to all of you, and I wish you all the best of success in this, the final countdown to Toastmasters year 2019-2020. My name is Jeffrey Marshall, and I will be your Toastmaster of the evening and General Evaluator. As GE, as your General Evaluator, I will provide the forum for evaluating the meeting, such as it is. I am not working alone in this endeavor. I have an able team working with me of a timer and a combination of our counter/grammarian. Our timer is Toastmaster Desmond, and at this time, I'll invite him to give his introduction of his role. Toastmaster Desmond.
Good afternoon. Am I being heard?
Yes, you are being heard.
Great. As your timer, it is my role to keep the timing of the meeting, note what time we've started, as well as have the timing for each speech. Today we have a speech marathon, so I'd just like to give the timing for each speech that is done. For our typical speeches, for the regular speeches that are 5 to 7 minutes long, you will know the timing using these colors. If you look at my background, we have green for the 5-minute mark, amber for the 6-minute mark, and red for the end of the speech. This will be this denotation is for the speeches, the regular speeches, from the leadership development manuals and the pathways. We also have a basic manual speech that is 10 minutes long. We will have the timing. We will have the timing done for green for the 8th-minute mark, yellow for the 9-minute mark, and red for the 10th-minute mark. Finally, there is a 15-minute speech, the educational feature, sorry. And the timing for that, we will have green for the 12th-minute mark, no, green for the 13th-minute mark, amber for the 14th-minute mark, and red for the 15th-minute mark. At the end of the meeting, I shall give you a report. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Toastmaster Desmond. And stepping in at the last minute is our counter Grastash Kamarian, Toastmaster President Brian Stevenson. Toastmaster Brian.
Thank you. As your counter this afternoon, I will be taking note of crutch words. So words that we use, so, as well as things that we lean on, and long pauses, I will be noting and reporting at the time allotted. As your grammarian, I will be taking note of good use of English, improper use of the grammar as well. And I also am presenting the word of the day. The word of the day is parse. We encourage you to use the word. It's a verb that means to divide, especially a sentence, into grammatical parts and identify the parts and their relations to each other. The details are found on your agenda. Using a sentence, the lawyer parsed the contract carefully to ensure her client was properly compensated. You're encouraged to use the word of the day.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Brian. And we see Toastmaster Colleen stepping in just now. And at the end of the meeting, at the end of the speeches, I should say, I will switch hats to open commentary and provide the space for evaluation of the meeting, as well as for the speech evaluators to give their feedback on presentations thus far. So please be tuned and stay ready for that aspect. As we go into our meeting, I'd like to advise a quick change to the agenda. The presentation by Toastmaster Kenrick will most likely not be presented, as he is unfortunately occupied by work responsibilities. So we will continue with the rest of the agenda, but unfortunately, Toastmaster Kenrick will most likely not be presenting at this time. Our first speech for the day will be done by our Sergeant at Arms, Toastmaster Newton Pommels, as he's coming on the final stretch, trying to complete his Leadership Development Level 2 designation. And he will be doing this Leadership Project Level 2, project number 3. And I will ask his evaluator, DTM, Distinguished Toastmaster Corin Thomas, to give her summation of the objectives of Toastmaster Newton's presentation. Toastmaster Corin? You're muted, Toastmaster Corin.
I'm sorry, Murphy is my friend today. Fellow Toastmasters, Toastmaster Milton will be presenting, yes, Newton, Introduction to Toastmasters Mentoring. This project requires him to tell us something about his experience as a protege and how it has impacted him. He also should share some aspects of how Toastmasters envisions mentoring. He has 5 to 7 minutes in which to present, and the speech can be humorous, can be informative, whatever the tack that he wants to take. It should not, however, be a report on the Introduction to Mentorship program. Toastmaster Milton's title is A Brick on a Brick. Brick on Brick, Newton Pommels.
My life as a mentor or mentoring. Thinking about it, I have decided to address this question and put it this way, that life has been my main mentor. And just to give a brief background on myself, I was born in St. Elizabeth. I have lived in Westmoreland, Betheltown to be exact. I grew up after that for my teenage years, most of my teenage years in Santa Cruz, St. Elizabeth. Also, since then, I've lived in St. Catherine, most notable, Portmore, St. Catherine, and also Old Harbor. Worked in Kingston my entire life. During this time, I have had gains in love, I have lost in love, I have had gains in financial matters, I have had loss. But to borrow from a DJ, a current DJ, brick upon brick, and to be concise, his brick is spelled B-R-I-K. So my experience has been as if you were building a building. And these are some of the bricks, or some of life object lessons that I have learned over this period. Number one is people. My mother told me some time ago that everyone has an agenda. And throughout life, I have come to realize that she is right. And the interesting part for me these days is to figure out person's agenda. And then I have realized when I've done that, the marbles in life will just line up easily. Brick number 2, women. I read somewhere that men are the rough sketches and ladies are the fine print. And it is an interesting concept, but I have also been told that the devil is really in the details. Brick number 3, wine. One of my granduncle, Uncle Sam, now deceased, told me that a gentleman from Portland said that it has been said that food is a staff of life, but rum is life. I would want to caution us that rum is good, can be a medicine, but as everything that deals with liquor, one has to be temperate because it actually takes life. Another brick is worship. And one of my favorite texts is found in Micah 6, verse 8. It's taken from the English Standard Version. It says, "He has told you, O man, what is good and what does the Lord require of thee, but to do justice and to love kindness and to walk humbly with your God." And one of my main problems throughout my life is injustice. As Peter Touch has said before, everyone is crying for peace. No one is crying for justice. And it goes on to say that I really don't want any peace, you know. What I want is equal rights and justice. And regarding the matter that is currently happening in the US, where the Black Lives Matter movement, I personally, as a Jamaican, cannot have someone kneeling on my neck and think that there would be a peaceful outcome. It is just not my nature. I am trying to stick to what the Father says, to emulate kindness, to make kindness the thing that I throw out to others, but I am still working on it. So, to summarize some of the bricks that I have learned, people, they always have an agenda. Figure it out and life will be easy. Wine, be temperate. Let God, and third, worship. Let God be the foundation, or as the Rastaman them would say, the groundation of your life. And life will be a bit easier. And to leave, I'll just share a portion of this poem, If, by Rudyard Kipling. It says, if you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings and never lose the common touch, if neither foe or loving friend can hurt you, if all men count with you but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distant run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you will be a man, my son. So Toastmasters is helping to bring out those virtues that I have found in life to make me a better person. And I encourage everyone, seek God. Find the virtues that are important, and I believe you will have a successful and happy life. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Toastmaster Newton. It's much appreciated. Very powerful words indeed. Our next presenter is indeed on her final countdown. She is about to do that which is fading fast away, the number 10 Legacy Basic Manual presentation. For all we know, this might be the final Basic Manual number 10 done in the history of Jamaica. There may be meetings tomorrow at JN and Nova Power speakers, but I think those are special meetings, not speech meetings. So our visiting Toastmaster, Shanique Lowndes, is indeed about to do the final countdown and to make history. She will be presenting her Basic Manual number 10, which is entitled, I have right here, Less Than. And I'll invite her evaluator, Advanced Communicator Gold, Advanced Leader Bronze, Jeffrey Azan, to introduce the details of her speech at this time. Toastmaster Jeffrey, and then Toastmaster Shanique.
Toastmasters, I have the pleasure, thank you very much. Toastmasters, I have the pleasure of being Toastmaster Shanique's evaluator this evening for, as Toastmaster Jeffrey pointed out, this historic moment, this potential final project number 10 of the Competent Communication Manual. And for this such occasion, I actually went and got the manual itself to read from. The project is entitled Inspire Your Audience, and her objectives are to inspire the audience by appealing to noble motives and challenge the audience to achieve a higher level of beliefs or achievement. She's to appeal to the audience's needs and emotions using stories, anecdotes, and quotes to add drama. She's to avoid using notes, and she has 8 to 10 minutes in which to complete her presentation. Mr. Toastmaster of the day.
I'm sorry, I was muted. Shanique Loans, less than, Shanique Loans.
Thank you. Is everybody hearing me?
Yes, we are.
Good. I want you to take a moment and look at this image. I'm taking you back to primary school math. If anyone recognizes what this image is, you're free to tell me what it is. Does anybody know what this is? Nobody?
Less than
Less
sign.
than.
Very good. This is the less than sign. I'm not a math genius, but I very much enjoyed primary school math. And one of the things my primary school math teacher did to help us understand the difference between the less than sign and the greater than sign was to help us to realize that the less than sign was the greater than sign, was simply the less than sign upside down. You see, in math, sometimes all we need to understand a difficult concept like less than and greater than is a perception inversion. Some students like to use a trick of using their forearms. So your left arm shaped this way is a less than sign, and your right arm shaped this way is a greater than sign. There's so many tricks to the trade of math, but we're not here to talk so much about math. In this COVID pandemic, which continues to evolve, and we're hoping we're seeing the tail end of it, especially in our reality in Jamaica, there's so many things that have been inverted, turned upside down, so many scripts that have been flipped. Schools have invaded our homes. I personally have been teaching online since March. Many of you have been working from home. So many things have been turned inside out. We've turned to virtual worship sessions where we're now at home congregating via Zoom and various platforms to have church on the weekends. Thankfully, churches are back open. But so many things are different from the way we would have known them. Our normal has completely been discombobulated. Even the idea of greatness, I submit to you, has been inverted. Look at it this way. Some of the persons who we would normally pass on the road, not give a second thought, maybe not even consider to do their jobs, or consider their jobs menial, low, of little concern, have become our day-to-day heroes. I'll tell you a story. After being in my house for 3 weeks after they closed school and curfews got more and more stringent, and then they went and locked down St. Catherine, so I couldn't leave my house, I was so happy when I saw the garbage truck coming. Normally the garbage truck comes and I'm a little bit annoyed because I'm in the middle of doing something important and I forgot to take out the kitchen garbage and I'm going to have to stop and do that. And the garbage men are loud and I never put my drum back the way it's supposed to be. But on this particular day, having been home for 3 weeks and having accumulated quite a bit of garbage, I was so elated to see the garbage truck and the same rowdy, loud, untidy garbage men. I was happy to see them. In places where delivery is a thing, like in America, the delivery men have been the heroes. People have been stuck in their homes and they've been wanting all kinds of things to eat. And had it not been for the delivery men and the faithful restaurant workers who would have been brave in this pandemic to go to work, many Americans would have been left basically half-starved because they don't have a culture of cooking like we do. Let's not even talk about our nurses or healthcare workers or doctors or respiratory therapists. I didn't even know that respiratory therapists existed. This is something I'm learning because of COVID. There's so many jobs, so many things, so many persons who we never thought of before, who have all of a sudden become great in our eyes. It has brought back to my mind the story of how I decided to become a teacher and the reactions that some people had to my announcement that I was going to be studying education at the University of the West Indies. One woman was so disappointed. She looked at me and said, "You're too bright to be a teacher. Are you really going to waste your time doing that?" At the time, I was no more than 19, but I was sharp as a tack and my tongue then was not as controlled as it is now. And I simply said to her, "Do you want dunce people teaching your grandchildren?" That sealed her tongue. And I have realized that teaching is really a great profession, not because we get a lot of pay, not because our working conditions are awesome, not because anyone really talks about us or there's anything prestigious about it. I find teaching to be a great profession simply because I get to serve others. You see, everyone has the potential for greatness because, as Martin Luther King Jr. tells us, greatness lies in the ability to serve. If you can serve others, then you can be the greatest possible person ever. Look at what is happening to us. All the jobs that require people to simply do things that deal with abstract concepts that really don't affect our day-to-day lives. I mean, it's not that important if it doesn't happen. You won't starve, you won't die. It's not important to your health. Many of those jobs, those persons have been laid off. Those persons have been working from home. Some of those industries have come to a screeching halt. But the industries that serve us are the industries that have skyrocketed. The industries that impact people's lives are the industries that are surviving in the potential economic crunch down that this pandemic is causing. This idea about greatness is something that has been in the world for a very long time. And it's not very strange to me personally that this pandemic is showing up what greatness really is about. Because you see, sometimes we look at things and we think they're really less than. But if we just turn our perception upside down, we'll realize that they really are greater than we thought. Another story. A little over 2,000 years ago, a man came onto this earth. When he arrived, there were many expectations of what he was supposed to do. This gentleman appeared in a time when his people were being oppressed by another government. They were almost in a colonial kind of situation. And most people were expecting great things from him. But what they were expecting really was for him to do away with the physical oppression, the fact that they were basically in slavery. They had to pay taxes to the season. They barely had any money for themselves. They barely were able to practice their own religion freely. This man was expected to free them from literal oppression. But what he came to do was even bigger than that. And unfortunately, even those closest to him missed the point. They were so focused on the literal, on the temporal, on the physical. They were so focused on the power that would come to them if this man were to burn down Babylon, as they would say. But what he really came to do was to impact human life in the ways that very few people were paying attention to in those days. You see, this man came and he healed the sick. He spoke to the people who were of little repute or no repute at all in their society. And this man did something for the human race that no other human being that has ever walked the face of this earth can claim. He paid the ultimate price to free us from the bondage of sin. That sounds pretty great to me, but if you think about how he did it, it wasn't so great. He died the death of the worst possible criminal of his time. He was made so low, so little, so minute, that even upon his death, his disciples were still confused as to what the point was for him to be here. That man was Jesus, the greatest servant of all time. He left for us a lesson that if we really and truly want to be great, the essence of greatness is in serving humankind. Small acts multiplied by millions of people can change the world. That's what Howard Zinn said. And if we look at Matthew chapter 20, verse 26, Jesus simply said to his disciples, whoever among you wants to be greatest, first has to be your servant. So when we think about being great, when we think about impacting the world, when we think about coming out on the other side of this pandemic better, let's remember that in order to be greater than the best thing we can imagine, maybe we need to spend some time to be a little bit less than what we're so hung upon. Maybe we need to spend a little bit of time with those who we consider to be less than, serving those who can barely help themselves, because that is the essence of what it means to be great. So whether it's math, or it's your job, or it's service, remember that sometimes when we look at something and we think it's less than, it really is greater than. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Shanique. There is much to parse through in your speech to go from less than to greater than indeed. Flip that switch, turn it over on its head. We don't have to hold on to that moniker of less than. Thank you so much. Our next presentation will be from someone else who has a very good record of dealing with final countdowns. In fact, last Toastmasters year as our president, she ensured that Communicators of Hope Toastmasters Club would finish as President Distinguished Club. Because of her push, we got that distinction in that final countdown. And she's here trying to accomplish her dynamic leadership level 5 and to complete this path in doing so on this last presentation of the 2019-2020 Toastmasters year. I speak of out of our past and incoming president, competent communicator, advanced leader bronze, and dynamic leadership level 4, Toastmaster Yannick Daly. Her speech title was changed actually. I nearly said the wrong thing, the old thing a while ago. Her speech title is The Journey Through the Levels, and I will ask her evaluator, our club coach, Rachel Callahan, to further give some details on what this presentation will be about. Rachel, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Jeffrey. Toastmaster Yannick Daly will be reflecting on her growth during the completion of this path that she was on. She will be sharing some aspects of the growth that she experienced, and she will be required to use any style that she likes as long as she completes within 10 to 12 minutes. Toastmaster Yannick Daly will be presenting the journey through the levels. The journey through the levels, Toastmaster Yannick Daly.
Be willing to do what you ask of your team. There is joy in giving, and celebrate your accomplishments. Toastmasters and guests, these are the major lessons that I learned as I moved through my dynamic leadership path. And this afternoon, I'm going to be sharing them with you. As I share with you my movements through levels, from levels 1 through 5. Level 1. In May 2018, I was elected president of the Communicators of Hope Toastmasters Club. And I was young, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and ready to just jump in. But I had no idea what I was getting myself into. But it was a journey that I had committed to completing. At the beginning of the year, I had set out a set of goals for myself, designations that I wanted to accomplish. Toastmasters, I had every club meeting of Communicators of Hope listed. I had all the inter-club meetings that I would go to. I had everything down to a T, how I would attain my Distinguished Toastmaster designation by the end of the 2019-2020 year. Everything was laid out. It was also in this time that I was assigned my very first mentee. Because my mentee joined Toastmasters in 2018, he could not do the legacy program. He had to do Pathways. And Toastmasters and guests, this is something that I did not admit to my mentee or to Jeffrey, but I did not like Pathways. It was completely different than everything in the legacy program. But I needed to be that support for my mentee. And so I pushed forward. In November 2018, my mentee completed his level 1 designation, and I did so shortly after. In January of 2019, I was doing my goal checks. I was looking at what I had accomplished, what I had left to get done, how, where, when, why, and what I would need to do to ensure that I was on track to becoming a distinguished Toastmaster by the end of this Toastmasters year. As I went through the things that I had accomplished, I noticed I had one extra designation. It was my level 1, dynamic leadership level 1 designation. This was not planned for, but I also realized that most of the members of my club were not enrolled in Pathways. This was where lesson 1 came in Toastmasters and guests. I realized I needed to be willing to do what I was asking my members to do. It was at this time that I decided to no longer pursue my goal of becoming a distinguished Toastmaster under the legacy program, but instead to earn that designation through Pathways. I vowed as a leader that I would lead by example. I would not just show my members or tell my members that it can be done and Pathways is feasible, but I would show them. And that's exactly what I decided to do. And moving into my level 2, my focus was to ensure that I paved the way for my members. I began to do training sessions on Pathways in an effort to get my members more comfortable with Pathways and understanding what it is that would be required of us. Pathways was going nowhere, so we needed to get on board. In level 2, I also completed a project which assessed your leadership style. I scored the highest for the coaching leadership style. And at the time, I thought, this doesn't seem very accurate. But looking back in retrospect, I realized that it was very accurate because the coaching leader is a leader who prepares their team for the future. And that's exactly what I was doing. Moving into level 3 and starting this current Toastmasters year, again, I had a plan set forth. How would I become a distinguished Toastmaster? Level 3 also marked the beginning of my new mentorship era. I had a new mentee. And with my new mentee, I was ready to take on what Toastmasters had to offer. In level 3, at the beginning of the year for level 3, I decided that I would complete my level 3, my level 4, my level 5, and level 1 of a new path by December 2019. Life happened, Toastmasters, life happened. Because it was also at the start of this Toastmasters year that I had a shift in my work roles and responsibilities. I completed level 3 shortly after this Toastmasters year began, but I did not earn another designation until January 2020. This is coming off a high from last year where by December I had earned 4 designations. There were moments where I felt like I just needed to give Toastmasters a break. This was not going to work out because of all of the work responsibilities that I had. But the light at the end of my tunnel and my inspiration was my mentee. He showed me that there is joy in giving. The more I helped him was the more he helped me. He inspired me more times than I can count. And during my mentorship path also was one of the most rewarding phases of my Toastmasters journey. I got that mama bird feeling. I finally knew how parents felt when their child passed for a good school or they finally learned how to walk. I knew what it felt like because when he did a speech, I felt like I had accomplished something. It was rewarding. And it's because of him, I was able to get back on the horse and jump right back into completing my speeches and earning my designations. It was also a period where I learned that I could not continue to separate my Toastmasters and my work life. And this started level 4. For me, level 4 was about managing change. And it's so ironic because one of the main projects of my level 4 path on dynamic leadership was change management. Before I started my change management project, I actually went on a change management workshop for work. And it took me a few weeks to write my speech for level 4. And it was because I was trying to think of change management solely from a Toastmasters perspective. But it wasn't until I decided to just stop and understand that my life in Toastmasters and my life outside of Toastmasters were not separate things. If you've ever completed a Toastmasters Pathways project, one of the questions that it asks is, do you understand how this project affects your life outside of Toastmasters? I would always select yes without thinking about it. But it wasn't until I did that change management project that I truly could say and honestly select yes. Because I used what I learned from my mentee to help cope with my work responsibilities. And I used what I learned from my change management course in work to help with Toastmasters and getting back on track. I wrote a speech about setting goals versus resolutions. And it was that speech that helped me to better organize my work life where I can feel more comfortable and not feel overwhelmed anymore. It was because of my relationship with my mentee that I was able to supervise persons who were once my friends, or we were on the same level. I had to find that there was a big correlation between Toastmasters and my work life. And then there was level 5. Level 5 for me was the big revelation. It was that sigh of relief. Because in level 5, I realized that I had grown so much more than I could have ever expected. One of the reasons I didn't like Pathways was because I thought it was not as structured as the legacy program. I thought the legacy projects gave you objectives. It told you we're working on body language, we're working on vocal variety, and it outlined different elements that made a good speech. But what I found with Pathways is that they gave you the material and then they allowed you the opportunity to take what you can from your personal experience with the material to present a speech. Pathways also focuses on mentorship a lot. And I realized that having a good mentor will help you go through the path and completing your path. Pathways is different, I can tell you that, but it is different in a good way. I am, and I can proudly say, a dynamic leader, having completed my dynamic leadership path. To me, Pathways is different from the legacy program, and it's a bit like life and a classroom. A classroom gives you lessons and then teaches you lessons and then gives you a test. Life gives you the test, and then only then you will learn the lessons. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Toastmaster Yannick. Toastmaster Essay messaged me privately. I won't say what that message was, I will say that I hear you both, and I will try to keep an open mind on certain things. It is the final countdown for the legacy program. I'm not here to bash pathways or anything like that yet. I'll save it for later on. But thank you very much, Toastmaster Yannick. That was a wonderful presentation. It indeed helped me to consider different aspects of certain things. And you will see me do a speech sooner or later on the matter, sometime in July. Our final presentation. Excuse me, Toastmaster Essie?
I will hold you to that.
Yes, ma'am. Our final presentation this afternoon will be an education feature, and it will be from the Leadership Excellence Education Series. And this will be done by our visiting Toastmaster, Keisha Middleton. And the exact description of her presentation is goal setting and planning. And so I'll invite Toastmaster Keisha to do her presentation at this time. I will set up so that you'll be able to share screen. I'm sure that you may want to share screen, or Shadari, will you have something to say about this project? No, you won't, okay. So just let me say, we have one participant share at a time. All right, Toastmaster Keisha, you should be able to share a presentation at the ready. So Toastmasters and friends, Toastmaster Keisha Middleton.
Goals are specific objectives, ambitions, and results that persons strive in order to accomplish. We experience different goals at different stages. For example, when you were younger, your goal might have been to pass for a traditional high school. It may be a situation where you wanted to buy a new car or buy a new house. At every stage of our life, we have a new goal and we set new goals. Whenever you meet persons in life and you ask them, what is it that you want out of life? Most persons will say, I want to be successful. But what is the real definition of success? Can one achieve success without small, defined, measurable goals? I think not. Success has to be defined and measured by different goals. Some persons may view success as being rich. All persons want to experience earning and getting a lot of money. But what is the blueprint that you're going to use in order to accomplish getting money? Ladies and gentlemen, I am not referring to the scammer them there mentality. No, today in my presentation, I will be highlighting how I have set personal goals in my past. I will also be highlighting how I use different blueprints in order to achieve that goal, and how I was able to use a personal blueprint and personalize it to my Toastmasters journey. So I was able to be effective in my role as Vice President of Membership for the year, Toastmaster year 2019 to 2020. Finally, I will also be able to provide recommendations on how you can improve your goal setting planning in your club based on my personal experience. I grew up in Kingston, Jamaica, and I grew up in a nuclear family. It was me, my mom, my dad, and my two brothers. My two brothers were way older than I was. My two brothers were over 15 years older than I was. I was what you considered the wash belly. And for persons who may not be familiar with the term wash belly, the wash belly is normally the youngest person in the family. The wash belly would get anything he or she would want. As the wash belly, I wanted one thing. And I take this one thing very seriously at that time. I would always want food. I consider myself a food lover, and I would want more and more and more. As a result of that, my parents would always give it to me. And do you notice that in Jamaica, we always see the baby, the chubby baby, has as the healthy baby. Everybody wanted to have that chubby baby. Well, for some reason, my parents took this to the extreme and did not provide any form of restriction for me. To be honest, I am not blaming my parents for this. I was just greedy, greedy, and greedy. And based on this and no restriction, I developed an unhealthy relationship with food. This unhealthy relationship with food started from I was a child. It eventually followed me into my adolescent years and finally in my adulthood. It resulted in me being very overweight to the point where I was almost morbidly obese. I began to develop numerous complications, including being pre diabetic and also being hypertensive. I needed a change and I wanted to experience this change. So I decided that I would try to lose 90 pounds in 2 years. I was going to do it very slowly so that my body could handle all of the pressure. In September 2018, I decided to start this journey. And as expected, I would need to do some form of research. I did research online and I came across this program that I now describe as a wonderful program called Orandi Fitness. This was someone that I knew from university days, and I wanted to try this program because I have done so many programs in the past that failed. So, no harm in trying one more. I signed up for the program in September 2018, and this program required that I used a meal plan and attended the gym 4 times per week. I was also a part of a WhatsApp group for this group, and they would provide numerous support and send information that I needed. I felt it was very hard for me to do this journey, and I felt like giving up numerous times. But because of the difficulty I was experiencing, I decided that I would go through with the sacrifice. I recall being in the gym on numerous occasions and wanted to just walk out and give up. This was difficult. It was very hard for me. But because I wanted my blood pressure to go back to a regular level, I decided to stick it out. I would often create a plan by writing down what I needed to go to the supermarket and also my exercise schedule. And numerous times I will also consult with the persons who are a part of the group. I implemented this blueprint in my life for over 1 year. I had to go to the doctor on a monthly basis to check on my blood pressure just to see if everything was normal. And within 6 months, it was back to normal. I tried my best to avoid persons who were not on a healthy journey with me and persons who were not adding to my development. I did this as best as possible. Today, I am 70 pounds down and 20 pounds away from my goal. And I'm sure when I get to that new goal, I will be setting another goal, maybe to be even leaner or just to be more fit. The discipline that I have learned from this weight loss journey has allowed me to be more of a driven Toastmaster. I was able to commit to my Toastmasters journey for the year 2019 to 2020 for that period so I could accomplish my CC. At the beginning of the year, I set two goals. One, to accomplish my CC, and two, to deliver in the role of vice president of membership so that my club could achieve Distinguished Club Award. These two goals were specific, they were measurable, they were action oriented, realistic, and time bound. And these are all the characteristics of a great goal. These goals were measurable because I needed to accomplish 10 projects in the Competent Communicator Manual in order to have accomplished my CC. And for the Distinguished Club, I would have to sign up a total of 8 new members for the Toastmasters year. This was difficult, similar to my fitness journey, and I recall inviting new members to come and visit our club. Once there was a new member at our club, we would ask them to introduce themselves to see if their interest is in line with what the Toastmaster has to offer. Our president would give them a time on the floor to do an introduction and ask, "Why are you here?" After the wonderful introduction, it was the task of the other members of our team or other members of Toastmasters to ensure that the guest is welcome at all times. After the meeting, I would have a one-on-one dialogue with the persons just to find out what they're expecting from Toastmasters and if Toastmasters can fulfill the journey that they're on. Most persons would say that they're interested in becoming a better speaker, but more information would be needed. As such, I would ensure that I send a follow up email to the visitors to give them more information on Toastmasters and direct them to our website. After a visitor has visited our Toastmasters meeting for over 2 times, they would be added to a potential Toastmasters group where they would get information on our meetings. And after receiving information on our meetings, they will get different updates. I would then have dialogue with a potential member regarding the requirements for membership, and also what is required from Toastmasters International. Once the guest becomes a member, I would then remove them from the potential Toastmasters group and add them to the main group so that an update can be received. Once the person has officially in the Toastmasters group, the person would be assigned a mentor. The mentor would be able to guide them along the Toastmasters journey. Similarly to my meal plan, I had to have a plan of action for a new member to take them from visitor to becoming a member. I recall creating a support group for my fitness group. And similarly to that, I created a WhatsApp group for persons who wanted to be potential members. I had hard days in the fitness group, and it was the same for Toastmasters. I had a very hard day. But I kept my goal in sight of being a great vice president of membership and also kept the goal in sight of accomplishing my CC. Similarly to making a list of going to the supermarket, I had to write down my goal. And I want all Toastmasters to remember that an idea is just a dream once it is in your mind. It will only become a goal once you put that idea down on paper. I also had to consult executive members and my club coach to ensure that as a club, we remained on track to accomplishing the club's overall objective. Our club also had to align with senior Toastmasters such as Fitzgerald Gale and Cheryl Pink so that we were associating with the right network to accomplish our goal. Thank you so much, team, as we were able to accomplish Distinguished Club for the year 2016, 2019 to 2020. And I was also able to complete my CC through goal setting planning. In this presentation, I was able to highlight how I set a personal goal. I was also able to give you information on a blueprint that I personalized in order to accomplish my goal in Toastmasters and being VP of membership. Finally, to my fellow Toastmasters and club executives, I recommend that you sit with your club coach to organize your success plan. Ensure that your goals are measurable and in line with Toastmasters International. I also encourage that you have executive meetings weekly
so that you can get the resources that each of your executive members and your club members need in order to accomplish their overall objective. Your president will also assign resources and assist you in mitigating the necessary risk. All executive members, I wish you good luck on your Toastmasters journey for the upcoming year 2020 to 2021. I hope your goal setting plan techniques will allow you to become distinguished club for the upcoming year. Good luck, Toastmasters, and all the best to you.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Keisha, for your presentation on goal setting. It is much appreciated. And in this final countdown, goal setting and that strategy is what's needed to achieve the goals within that deadline. I now switch hats from Toastmaster of the Day to General Evaluator. Time is counting down indeed to the last meeting of Communicators of Hope for 2019-2020. It's so close, I can feel it. We begin with the timer. Toastmaster Desmond, what were the times for the speeches? How did we do with the usage of time?
Right, so we began late. The meeting started at 5:41, basically 11 minutes late. At that point in time, the introduction of the timer should have been done. The speeches are as follows. Newton Pommel's speech was 6 minutes, 30 seconds. Shanique Lee Lowndes, her speech was 10 minutes, 3 seconds. Yanit Daly, her speech was 11 minutes, 15 seconds. And Keisha Middleton, her speech was 13 minutes, 50 seconds. And I believe we are still 10 minutes behind, but we're making good time.
Okay, thank you very much for that comprehensive report, Toastmaster Desmond, much appreciated. We'll now go into our speech evaluations, where each evaluator will have 2 to 3 minutes for their presentation. And the first evaluation will come from distinguished Toastmaster Corin Thomas, who will be followed, without my introduction, will be followed by Advanced Communicator Gold Jeffrey Azan, followed afterwards by Advanced Communicator Gold Rachel Callahan. And then that will end the speech evaluation section. So we'll begin with Toastmaster Corin, then Toastmaster Jeffrey, then Toastmaster Rachel. Toastmaster Corin, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Toastmaster Jeffrey. Newton, let me first commend you on taking on the challenge of this project and in meeting the time requirement. I thought that you had an interesting approach to the project by telling us about the eras in your life that had taught you life lessons. And I liked your analogy about the brick on brick. That, yes, you are building. You gave us some interesting snippets. People, women, wine or rum, and worship. What I would have liked is to have for you to have taken it further and then given us the correlation, the lessons that you learned. How have you applied them? How did they, in effect, mentor you? Because you mentioned that there were lessons, but I'm not seeing how they've taught you to be better. I would encourage you to look back at the project and perhaps take it to the next level, deepen the perspective. I also would have liked for you to give us the correlation between how life has affected you and what is Toastmasters' perspective on mentorship. You mentioned Toastmasters near the end, but again, I did not get the correlation. I did not get that Toastmasters takes mentorship seriously. How does Toastmasters approach mentorship? So I'm recommending that you read the project again, refocus on those aspects. I will be very happy to help you if you need some guidance. I just believe that even this perspective that you gave, perhaps you could then single out someone, whether a Toastmaster or outside of Toastmaster, that has exemplified perhaps one of the examples that you gave. For instance, when you spoke about your mother telling you about people and you gave that analogy, tell us how it has worked for good or negative and how you are able to apply that in your life. My final recommendation, I am recommending that you try to give us more eye contact. For a large part of the presentation, your head was somewhat up, so you weren't looking directly at the audience, and looking at the audience gives you more connection. The members feel that that you are addressing them. As I said, I thought it was an interesting perspective. I believe that you could possibly use it and develop some of the points and have a really effective speech on mentorship. Over to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Well, thank you. Next will be Jeffrey Azan, so we can go unannounced. I'll come in at the end of the evaluations.
Fellow Toastmasters, I have the privilege of evaluating Toastmaster Shanique Lee Lowndes, project number 10 from the Competent Communication Manual, Inspire Your Audience. A quick review of what her objectives were. She was to inspire the audience by appealing to noble motives and challenging the audience to achieve a higher level of beliefs or achievement, and appeal to the audience's needs and emotions using stories, anecdotes, and quotes to add drama. First and foremost, Toastmaster Shanique, I'd like to congratulate you on making it within the designated time of 8 to 10 minutes. You fell just outside the 10 minutes, right within the grace period of 30 seconds at 10:03. So congratulations on making it within the time and using the full amount of time. Always a feat to be appreciated. Now, Toastmaster Shanique, there are a number of things that you did exceptionally well, particularly pulling from the other competent communication projects. You used a prop as a good eye catch at the very beginning of your speech. You used excellent language, and your vocal variety kept us engaged throughout the presentation. You also used great hand gestures, and your speech had a very peculiar flow, which caused us to think throughout the entire speech. I actually had to stop and write it down to really understand how the flow played out, where you began talking about perception and inverting perception. Then you moved into how that was playing into the COVID times. Then from the COVID times, you spoke about service and how service can make a difference utilizing your own personal story. And then finally, the story of Jesus and how it all kind of came back through. And you use the story of Jesus as the greatest example of inverting that perception into, if you're looking to do great things, start by doing small things, because sometimes the greatest ones among us are the ones doing the least that we can appreciate. So it was an excellent speech, very thought-provoking. I also enjoyed a lot of the phrases that you used, particularly the schools have invaded our homes. And when you asked the challenger of your profession, so is it that you want Duns people teaching your children? I thought those were excellent ways to grab our attention and pull us into your speech, because I could feel those bits of conversation. Things you can do the next time you give a presentation, particularly in this new video format. One, at the beginning of your speech, you used a prop, but after utilizing the prop to its fullest, you then continue to hold the prop. Remember, once you're finished with a prop, to put away the prop. Also, during your speech, when you're going to move on to another story, you prompted us by saying, and another story. The prompt was unnecessary and you could have swiftly just moved into further examples. All in all, Toastmaster Shanique, I think you did an exceptional job at forcing us to think differently. You forced us to look at things from a different perspective. And even in our own lives, you encouraged us that if we're aiming to do great things, particularly in this COVID time, in particular to change in our own situation, that our greatness lies in small acts. And for that perspective shift and the inspiration to move in those small acts, I congratulate you on completing your project number 10 and achieving your competent communicator designation. Over to our next evaluator.
Toastmaster Yannick, are you there? All right, wonderful. I see you there. Toastmaster Yannick, let me remind you guys, she was required to speak for 10 to 12 minutes, and she was reflecting on her growth during the completion of this path that she was on, and the path was the dynamic leadership path, and her purpose was to share some aspect of her growth during the completion of this path, and she could do it in any way that she chose to approach it. Toastmaster Yannick, I have 3 minutes. I have to keep it tight. I can't sing your praises for 3 minutes, but that's really what I want to do. Your title was the journey through the levels, and indeed you took us on a journey through every single level. I love the fact that this is the approach that you took. Pathways is a path, and I love the fact that you tied in the journey and the path, whether you intended to or not. So I felt like you walked me through so easily all of the challenges that you faced, and I felt like I was right there with you, going through everything that you went through. You started us off with a really, really strong proverb, not a proverb. Be willing to do what you ask your team to do. That saying that you started off with, I noticed how nicely you finessed it with the first part that you shared with us, where you tied it back to the opening, where you shared the challenge that you had of disliking pathways. However, because you were the president and because that is what you were asking others to do, you decided to take that challenge on yourself. I loved the way you approached that. I loved how personable and how sincere you came across with the content. I'm not going to go over some of the things that you shared. I think that if anybody is smart, we'll take you to introduce pathways to other clubs when there are people who don't like the idea of it. But I felt that you were very efficient and very effective, even though we're currently using a medium that sometimes hampers our ability to connect. You engaged the audience. I felt like I was watching you right there in front of me rather than through a screen. I love the fact that you decided to stand. You had great gestures, great vocal variety, and you were just absolutely pleasant to listen to. One of the only things that I would recommend you work on, one of your little crutches, is fellow Toastmasters and guests when you run out of things to say. However, you fixed that later on as you got more comfortable. Toastmaster Shanique, like I said, I'm seeing the yellow light and I could sing your praises absolutely all day. You ended with, when life gives you a test, when life gives you a test and only then can you learn the lesson. If this was a test that you were being faced with, you would have passed. Congratulations on achieving or completing your pathway number 5. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much to all our evaluators. Your apt use of the sandwich technique and providing these stellar evaluations was indeed a great countdown. And I want to give an extra special congratulations to Toastmaster Shanique, the newest, potentially the final competent communicator in Toastmasters, more than probably. And also congratulations to Yannick for continuing to rise and shine in a sterling example of the wonderful ways of pathways, as she said, achieving her level 5 designation. Thank you so much. Brian says to have lunch with me. Yeah, we can do that and talk. I'll still say my piece. Watch and see. I'll now ask our grammarian accountant, Brian, to give his report at this time.
First, I'll give my report as a counter. There were some infractions. Newton used and so, and some pauses, inappropriate pauses as well. Jeffrey Azan, and no, were some crushes. Shanique tends to use so, and to a lesser extent, you see. Rachel, couple of doubling up like I, and Keisha tends to use so. Desmond, look out for your so's and as well. With respect to the grammarian role, I did not detect many infractions. There was some inappropriate use of the vernacular, so we need to be careful that we only use the vernacular when appropriate. I was more impressed by the turns of phrases that persons used. For example, Shanique, when she said, small acts multiplied by millions will impact. And when Yannick spoke about life, giving you a test, and then you will learn the lessons. Keisha also spoke about idea is just a dream if it remains in your head. So those stood out to me. The word of the day I recall being used once by Toastmaster Jeffrey Marshall. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Toastmaster Brian, for stepping in and filling the role so ably as our grammarian/word master. Our meeting today started late, unfortunately, and again, I take responsibility in that vein. While we were here on time, the arrangements and persons coming in on time, unfortunately, were not as good as it had to be. We acknowledge Rachel and Janet who have to depart. Thank you so much for being here. So as we go into the next year, counting down to the end of this meeting and the Toastmasters year, I encourage us at Communicators of Hope to really endeavor to be on time, to be sure to take part and to follow and to honor our obligations and responsibilities, that we can be sure to start on time and finish on time. We also had a good meeting. It had all the necessary facets. We were unfortunate to not have table topics this time, and that was due to the fact that this was a speech marathon, but we look forward to our regular meeting format next year in July. We look forward to being 2 meetings per month rather than the 4 meetings that we normally do. Whoever the incoming VP Ed is, you are blessed and highly favored, and I hope you never have to go through the crucible like I did over the last 2 months. And in closing, I just want to encourage us, even while we're still doing the Zoom, we don't know when we're going to get a chance to meet in person again, let's be sure to put our best faces forward at all times and try to use various means to promote the club. In case you didn't realize, we are streaming live right now on various sites, and we hope that this was a chance to really show how Toastmasters can be a benefit, and that persons who are watching can see how to execute, so to speak, and to see that they can indeed do this as well. It was my pleasure to serve as your general evaluator. It was my pleasure to serve as your Toastmaster of the evening. I hereby thank you and declare this part of the meeting closed, and I turn over the control of the meeting to our president to go as the last few minutes of our Toastmasters here counts down to the final end. Toastmaster Brian Stevenson, the floor is now yours.
Thank you, Toastmaster Jeffrey. It has indeed been a wonderful year. I have been blessed to be among such Toastmasters as those in the Communicators of Hope. Their dedication, their vision, and their strive for excellence. They want to grow and they go after it. And I encourage each and every one that as we move on, we continue to use each and every meeting, each and every opportunity as a way to be better, to get better. And there's no better place to be than in a Toastmasters Club to achieve the growth that we are seeking. We are very happy as well to have had so many of our friends with us. And at this time, I'm going to invite comments from some of our visiting Toastmasters, some who have been with us throughout it all, and just to get their feedback on their club and on our club and their vision for us. So I'll start with Toastmaster Essie.
You know, I was hoping you would not have started with me, but notwithstanding, congratulations, Communicators of Hope. It is certainly a pleasure to be with you this afternoon into evening. When at the start of the month, Jeffrey said you were going to be having meetings every week, I thought, man, there's going to be a struggle because sometimes in the regular meeting, we do not necessarily have a full slate of speeches and so on. And this past month, I have seen Jeffrey refusing speeches because the demand is there. Really well done. I believe that several of your members have met their targets, and I want to congratulate you all for the effort, the stick-to-itiveness. Yannick in particular, congratulations, you are focused, and you, despite the work commitments, you were able to pull through. So I really want to say hats off to you all, and I'll be here to join you from time to time next year.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Essie. One of our other good friends who we haven't heard from in a little while, I'll ask Toastmaster Rosella to give her feedback.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we are.
I have a feeling that Brian was going to call me. Yes, I have been zooming in on your meetings whenever I remember, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I tried my best not to miss this evening, knowing it's the end of the year. I congratulate you all and the goals that you have set and how well you have done. The fact that you were able to have 4 meetings for the month, just to achieve those goals. I think it's well done. And I wish the new team that is coming in all the best for the year 2020-21. Well done. Blessings.
Thank you. And then finally, we're going to ask our past club coach, distinguished Toastmaster Kareem, to say a few words. Toastmaster Kareem?
Yes, man, I'm talking to you with my mic on mute. Good evening, everybody. I have my background up. I was trying to take it off. Let me take it off. It has been my pleasure working with you. I was appointed in January 2019. My stint ended last year, but I realized that we had not achieved all that we needed to achieve. And since I decided to stick with the club and help where I can, and I hope I was of some benefit. And I'm happy to relinquish my role to Toastmasters Callahan and Toastmaster Dennis, who are the new club coaches. It has been my pleasure working with you. I have learned and I hope I have been able to bring some value. And there are some persons who I have been working with and I will continue. And if you need my assistance, please, I will be happy to assist. And all the best for the new Toastmasters here, to the new executive, and have a good year.
Thank you. We appreciate all of the well wishes. We appreciate the love and the direction. And we know that this being the final countdown, that's just for tomorrow. We start again July 1st. We're looking forward to many more coming on board. I want to say thank you for all the others who are present and who have contributed. Thank you for being here, Jeffrey. Thank you for being here, Shanari. Thank you for your presentation, Keisha, very apt at this time. And we know that we will be moving from strength to strength with the communicators of hope. That being said, I want to call this meeting the final meeting of the Toastmasters year for the communicators of hope to a close. Our meeting is officially adjourned. Have a good evening.
Good evening, everybody.